This week's parsha is Parshas Emor. We talk in this week's parsha about a number of things, one of which is Sfiras HaOmer, counting of the Omer. Now, we are presently in the process of counting the Omer, and we are now between Pesach and Shavuos, which is when we count the Omer. Now, the correlation or connection should become immediately apparent, which is that we are now in a phase of preparing for the giving of the Torah. Matan Torah on Shavuos. On Shavuos, we commemorate and celebrate the giving of the Torah, which was on the 6th of Sivan, which is when Shavuos is, now at least. And there's a medrash actually that talks about the original counting of the Omer on the way out of Egypt. The medrash, it's quoted by the Ran, it says that when we left Egypt, the Jewish people, we left Egypt, and Moshe said, we're leaving Egypt, we're going to get the Torah in Har Sinai. And so the Jewish people were like, when are we getting the Torah? How long? And Moshe Rabbeinu says, in 7 weeks. So what do you do when there's something you're really excited for, really looking forward to? Make a calendar and you start crossing off days. So that's Sfiras HaOmer. We're counting the days towards the giving of the Torah. So Sfiras HaOmer, the counting of the Omer, is a preparation for receiving the Torah on Shavuos. And it makes a lot of sense, right, when we consider the component of Sfiras HaOmer, which is focused on self-development. And it is very much, right? We know that every day at the end of Sfiras HaOmer, we say a prayer, a tefillah to Hashem at the end, this Rabbanu Shalom, and we're asking Hashem that in honor of the counting of the Sfira, there should be a tikkun, a rectification, a reparation, a cleansing in a particular characteristic, right? So there are 10 Sfiros. Sfiros are in worlds, in layers of reality, there are Sfiros. In a soul, there are koiches, abilities. They have the same names because they're equivalent, which are their first 3 spheres and the first 3 koiches are Chachma bin Adas, let's say conception, comprehension, and connection, internalization, which are, let's say, relatively academic. And then there are the 7 behavioral characteristics, which are chesed, kindness, gvura, strength, etc. So throughout the 7 weeks of Sfiras HaOmer, and each of the 7 weeks has 7 days within it, each one of those 49 days, 7 by 7 is 49, is associated with each week is associated with one of these behavioral characteristics. Right? Chesed, the first week is chesed, the second week is gvura, etc. So kindness, strength, etc. And then within each week, they are broken down. So chesed, this attribute, this behavioral characteristic of kindness, it's not just kindness. Within kindness, there are different sub-characteristics. So there's chesed, sheba chesed, chesed of chesed, and there's gvura of chesed, and tiferes of chesed, etc. So each of the 7 behavioral characteristics is made up of 7 sub-behavioral characteristics, which are the same 7. So there's chesed, gvura, tiferes, netzach, hod, yesod, malchus. And then within chesed, there's chesed of chesed, gvura, sheba chesed, tiferes, netzach, hod, yesod, malchus of chesed. And then gvura has all the same 7 sub-components, etc. So over the 49 days, each of the days is associated with one of the 49 sub-components. And each day is associated with the reparation, correction, realignment of each of these characteristics. So the time of counting the Sfira is essentially a journey of personal development, spiritual personal development, growth, reconnection, realignment of all the different little components of the soul, of our personality, of our character, in preparation for receiving the Torah on Shavuos. Now, obviously, this is a very individual journey, right? What the chesed in my personal souls and in my personality and character as a human, as a person, that's going to be different to what chesed looks like and is specifically for each of you. For every one of us, chesed is different. And chesed sheba chesed is different. And gvur sheba chesed is different. That's first of all. Second of all, the journey that we've been through so far and the things that have happened to or with or within each of our chesed sheba chesed and gvur sheba chesed, etc., are different. So the materials, let's say, that we start out with is different. The baggage, the history is different. So what reparation, what repairing looks like is obviously going to be different and unique. This is a very specific individual journey. Personal development is personal, which means by definition, if it's true and genuine, it's going to be very individual specific. Bless you. And the Torah actually says, Osfartem lachem, and you will count for yourselves 7 weeks. Now, there are a number of other times mitzvahs associated with counting where we do count. For example, Shemitah, the cycle of 7 years. Yovel, the cycle of 50 years, which is 7 sevens is 49, and then the 50th year is Yovel. Depending whether it's the 50th year, sometimes it's the first year of the next cycle, or it's a year in between. That's a whole conversation of its own, but there's the 7 years, 7 cycles of 7 years, 50th year. That's a mitzvah to count, but we don't each have to count for ourselves. There is a count that is done collectively for the community, and it's good. We don't all have to count. This is the first year of Shemitah. This is the second year of Shemitah. First year of Yovel. Second year of Yovel. We don't have to do that. When it comes to Sphira, the fact that the community is counting is irrelevant to each of us. Every one of us has our own mitzvah to count. Which makes sense if this is associated with a journey of individual, genuine, personal growth, development, reparation, etc., reconnection, realignment. It's going to be individual. Nobody can do someone else's work of repairing, of realigning, of reconnecting. It doesn't work that way. If I want to repair my connection with someone or something, it has to happen inside of me. If someone else does it, it's going to be their connection. So this is individual specific, and we each have to do it on our own. And this is why each one of us counts individually. At the end of this counting, each of us has to count our way through 49 days, right? The Torah says, and you will count 7 weeks of 7 days, 7 complete weeks. You will count 50 days. The 50th day is Shavuos. So Shavuos, the holiday of Shavuos, the giving of the Torah shows up at the end of this 7-week journey. Now, it's true technically, if I don't count Sphira a single time between Pesach and Shavuos, Shavuos is still going to happen. So Shavuos doesn't show up necessarily, it's not dependent. Shavuos is not dependent on my act of counting, on your act of counting, on anyone's act of counting, but Shavuos for me is dependent on my journey through these 7 weeks when I'm supposed to be counting. Whether or not I count is up to me. But Shavuos is going to show up at the end of those 7 weeks. And for each of you, Shavuos is going to show up at the end of 7 weeks. What do I mean by that? Like, it's going to show up when it's going to show up. We know what date it's going to show up. Like, what am I even saying? It's nice, but like, Sukkot is going to show up after I've journeyed through 6 months from the beginning of Pesach. It's like, are these just words? Am I just trying to say something nice to make a point? And the answer is no, there are very real halachic ramifications. So now we're going to get a little bit technical for a minute. If this is too much and it's just like, whoa, this is the kind of thing, some people's brains are just going to like get it and it's just going to work. And some people's brains might just be like, I don't know, like this is not me. If that's you, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So let's say this is planet Earth, right? We are here. Right now, the sun is here. Right now, it's midday over here, right? So it's, say, 12 p.m. The sun is here, means the sun is not here. For the people who are diametrically opposite us, it's going to be 12 a.m. It's midnight. The sun is directly opposite. They have the minimum amount of light they're going to have. Let's call it for simplicity's sake, midnight, midday, 12 a.m., 12 p.m. Right, for the people over here, they're halfway through between 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. And for the people here, they're halfway between 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. So are these people at 6 a.m. or are they at 6 p.m.? Oh, it depends which way the sun is moving, right? So the sun rises in the east. So if we're going to go with, let's say, with convention and call this east and call this west, that means the sun goes from the east to the west. That means the sun is moving in this direction. That means if you're over here, the sun is going to be directly above in 6 hours. So right now it's 6 a.m. In 6 hours, it's going to be 12 p.m., it's going to be midday, right? Over here, it's 6 p.m. because the sun was here 6 hours ago. It was midday. Now it's here, so it's 6 p.m. Yeah, we good so far? Okay, so now, question. Let's say it's 12 p.m. Monday night. Yeah, 12 p.m. We're going to call it Monday night. What time is it here? 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. Midday, Tuesday day. No, this is 12 p.m., sorry. This is Monday midday, 6 p.m. Monday. This is midnight when?
Tuesday. No.
Monday night.
Yeah.
Monday night.
So it's technically
Tuesday.
Yeah.
And we're all saying the same thing so far. Just wait. Okay. What about here? 6 p.m. Tuesday. No, I messed something up. This is p.m. and this is a.m. No, it's not. No. Okay. I was worried about confusing everyone else. I confused myself more. Okay. I'm talking about where the time, I'm thinking where the time is going to be as opposed to where it is now. Right now, it's midday here, which means here it's going to be, no. It's going to be midday here in 6 hours, which means it's 6 a.m. Is that what it said before? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now it's 6 a.m. Here it's midday Monday day. Here it's going to be midday Monday day in 6 hours. So what time is it now? It's 6 a.m. Monday morning. Here it's going to be midday Monday in 12 hours when the sun gets here. So what time is it now? It's midday, midnight, Sunday night. Here it's going to be that time, midday, Monday day, in 18 hours, so it's 6 p.m. Sunday evening. Okay, stop, forget everything we just said.
Oh no.
Not because it's not true, but because just let's not forget. Let's let go of that and start again. It's midday, Monday. Here, it was midday, Monday, 6 hours ago. So what time is it? It's 6 p.m. on Monday. Here, it was midday Monday 12 hours ago. What time is it? It's midnight Sunday night. So when we go around here, this is midday Sunday night. When we go around here, it's midday Monday night. So which one is it? Well, it just depends which way you go around the circle, but it can't be like right now here, it's both Monday and Sunday. Like, how does that work? It just depends which way and if you just keep going around, you could let's just go and keep going in circles. We'll be ahead of time 6 months if we go around enough times. How does this work? Something what's happening here? How's this going to work practically? And this is why we have a dateline. So the dateline is technically, it's an arbitrary point where at some point in this circle we have, that doesn't make any sense, whatever. let's say at some point we're going to draw a line. If this is, let's say, the North Pole, we're going to draw a line that goes from the North Pole to the South Pole. That's the date line. And say when you cross this line, you jump 24 hours. And that way, what happens is, if you go this way or you go that way, you get the same time. If we go this way, let's say, we go 12 p.m., it's going to be 12 p.m. in 6 hours, which means it's now 6 a.m. Let's say, imagine this was exactly halfway for simplicity's sake. So that would be, it's 3 a.m. here. So it's going to be 12 p.m. in 9 hours. But as we go back here, as soon as you cross that, we go back on the clock, but forward a day. And that way, if you keep going around, you're going to get the same time when you land up here.
Without the date line, what would be like confused in life?
If you travel, I mean, you'd have to travel for this to be a problem.
Okay.
But without traveling, when we set the times everywhere, let's say there's a starting point wherever the first, convention of setting standard of time happened. Let's say they set the time here, then other people over there, let's say the people who are 25% of the way around the world, between east and west horizontally, are they 6 hours ahead or are they 18 hours behind? Right? We have to pick one or the other. It can't be both. And if we just map it out, then mapping it out in opposite directions gives you opposite results. So we have to pick something that's going to be a standard. So we pick a point, say that's the date line. When you cross the line, boom, that's the way it works. So that's the way it goes. That's the way it works. There's a date line. When you cross the date line, it jumps 24 hours. So let's say and I experienced this in a very real way. If anyone's flown from the States to Australia directly, when you fly from the US, you fly west to Australia from California. You go west to Australia. In the middle of that trip, you're crossing the date line. So let's say you leave California at 10 p.m. You land in Australia, let's say 8 a.m. But it's not on the clock. It's not just, let's say, that 10 hours later. It's actually going to be much longer. The gap's longer, but whatever. It's going to be the following day because you jumped 24 hours at one point. Let's go the other way. It's simply the other way. If you leave Australia Monday morning on a flight to come to LA, you will land in LA, let's say 16, 18 hours later, on Monday morning, earlier than you left. So the flight took 16, 17 hours, however long it is, but during that flight, you crossed the date line, at which point you jumped back 24 hours. So you actually land earlier than you left on the clock because you've gone back a day. When you fly from here to Australia, you do the opposite and you jump ahead. So it takes almost a day to get there and you land a day and a half after you left because you're crossing the date line. That's that 24-hour jump ahead.
Isn't there an issue with Pesach? And do they have to redo the Seder? Do they not?
No, and if we didn't have a date line, it would be a big mess. It's like, do they do it today or tomorrow or yesterday or 2 days if you just go around twice?
I thought Rabbi Majeski said that he had asked.
From Pesach to Shavuos. That's exactly what we're going to talk about now. Let's say that today was the first day of the Omer. We fly today from here to Australia. It's Monday. We get on a plane and fly to Australia.
Let's do it.
We fly through one night. We land there on Wednesday morning. If today is our first day of the Omer, when we land, it was one night, it's the second day of the Omer. It's the second day of our count. We're going to be in Australia on Wednesday counting second day of the Omer when everyone else is counting third day.
But it's our counting.
Yes, because you count for yourself. It says, and you will count for yourselves, so you have to count. The same thing is in the reverse. If you leave Australia, let's say you can't leave on the first day because it's Yom Tov, but let's say it would be the first day just for simplicity's sake. And you would pass through, one night, You would get here, you're back on the same day, but for you it's the second day, everyone else is counting the first day. So if you go, let's say, if I would fly from here to Australia now, the regular route, cross the date line, and stay there till Shavuos, I would actually keep Shavuos a day later than everyone else. Because I'm going to be a day behind, because I started counting here, I crossed one night in terms of my journey and experience, but they're 2 days ahead. So my count is 1 day behind everyone else's. When they get up to day 50, I'm still on day 49. So I am actually going to observe Shavuos a day later. On the first day of Shavuos, they're all in shul. I'm going to be at home in a room putting on my tefillin, which we don't put on Yom Tov. Because it's not Shavuos. Shavuos is the 50th day. And it says you will count for yourselves. I'm not up to my 50th day yet.
That's if you're going from Australia to America?
That's America to Australia. If you're going from Australia to America, you'll be a day early. I remember when I was learning in 770 as a bacher, it was the strangest thing. It was the night before Shavuos. I was sitting learning in the evening, and someone who I knew, so an Australian, comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, did you fly from Australia during Sfira?" I said no. He's like, "Oh, we're looking for a minyan to do the Yom Tov davening tonight." They wanted to make a minyan. They wanted to find 10 guys who had flown from Australia in between, cross the date line, because for them it's Yom Tov. And it was just so strange. It's like, hang on, it's Yom Tov for you now? This is weird. Now, personally, I'd be very concerned about myself in those circumstances that I just turn on a light because I'd forget or whatever. But this is very real when we say that Shavuos, the Torah does not give a date for Shavuos. The Torah gives a date for Pesach, 15th of Nisan, a date for Sukkot, 15th of Tishrei, a date for Rosh Hashanah, 1st of Tishrei, Yom Kippur, 10th of Tishrei, etc. Shavuos does not have a date in the Torah. The date of Shavuos is the 50th day from the counting of the Omer, i.e. the second day of Pesach. If for me the 50th day is on the 7th of Sivan, because I flew from here to Australia and I crossed the date line, so I jumped ahead 24 hours, it's still Wednesday, because it doesn't say, and you will count for yourself 7 days from Sunday to Shabbos. The days of the week doesn't go by counting yourselves. The days of the week is a phenomenon within nature. Sunday is Sunday. Once the date line's set and the calendar's set, Sunday is Sunday. Monday's Monday. The 1st of Nisan is the 1st of Nisan. The 6th of Sivan is the 6th of Sivan. But Shavuos in the Torah doesn't have a date. It's 50 days. You will count for yourself 50 days. So if my 50th day is on the 7th of Sivan, then my Shavuos is on the 7th of Sivan. Simple as that.
Let's say you forgot to count one night. So you thought that it wasn't that you couldn't say the bracha, you thought that you had to stop counting, hypothetically.
Well, someone forgot.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that would never happen, right?
No, never. But, so what do you do? Is your Shavuos,
Okay,
super
good.
late?
So that's why I went back to saying, I had mentioned this earlier, but it makes sense to go back to it now that we have all of this a lot more concrete. Shavuos does not depend on your actually counting the 50 days. Shavuos depends on you journeying through these 50 days on which you have an obligation and a responsibility and privilege and opportunity to count and to do this work.
Can you just start counting again without the bracha?
Yeah, 100%. Okay. Not start again. You continue from whatever the correct count for that day is for you. 100% you do, absolutely. So when we say that Shavuos depends on your journey, it's very real. You could literally today, if you get on a plane and you fly to Australia, cross the date line, and you stay there till Shavuos, you will keep Shavuos a day later than everyone else. It's very real when we say that Shavuos specifically is determined by your journey through this time. It's not just some nice thing to say. You could literally keep it on a different day. And in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, in the times of the Sanhedrin, right, we have a fixed calendar now, and we know what the calendar is going to look like infinitely, basically, because we have a recycling calendar. But in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, right, the Jewish month goes by the moon, right? A Jewish month is determined by the solar cycle, the lunar cycle, the cycle of the moon. The whole yearly calendar is a mix of both. The month, within a month, goes by the moon. And that's the difference between, I would say, a big difference between the Jewish calendar and the Muslim calendar is theirs is just lunar. How is it possible to have both?
Yeah, how's it possible that the whole calendar is according to the sun and the moon?
Okay.
They align with the seasons, but
So the way it works is that, and this is why I was just talking about the months at first. The months go by the moon. So in a Jewish calendar, the month is determined by the lunar cycle. It starts and finishes. Yes, correct. Now, because the Torah says you will observe Pesach in the spring to commemorate the fact that Hashem took us out in the spring in the most pleasant season, if our month is 29 and a half days as opposed to the solar month, which is 30 and a half days, right? That's why in a solar calendar the months alternate between 30 and 31. Ours alternate between 29 and 30. At the end of a year, if both calendars started at the same point, at the end of the year, the lunar year would end 12 days approximately earlier than the solar year. The second lunar year would end 24 days earlier than that solar year. The third one would end a month and change earlier. After 9 years, you'd be a whole season earlier.
But I don't understand how we align with the seasons and the moon.
So we're getting there.
Oh, you're
So, because the Torah tells us that Pesach has to be in the spring, this would be a problem because every 9 years would be a full season earlier. So the way it works is that the structure of the calendar is such that approximately every 3 years or so, it's not exactly every 3 years, we have an additional month, a leap year. The Jewish leap year is an extra month. It's called a Shana Me'uberes. The halachic term for a leap year on the Jewish calendar is a Shana Me'uberes. Me'uberes literally means pregnant because it's carrying an additional month inside. So the calendar, the Jewish calendar goes 11 days earlier, 12 days earlier, 12 days earlier, 12 days earlier. That's a month back. Add in a whole extra month, push it back again. Goes back, push it forward. Back, push it forward. So, and that way we keep Pesach always in the spring. Now, because it doesn't equal up exactly, because it's 12 days, but then there's variation, because some years in our calendar, there are a couple of months that can vary. It's not always 29, 30, 29, 30. Sometimes you could have 229, sometimes you could have 230s in a row, so there is a bit of a range, and whatever, it works itself out.
Yeah.
But the months are lunar, go by just the moon. The whole year is a combination, it's like a lunisolar calendar.
Specifically Pesach, do we align with the season?
Yes, that's the one time that the Torah says there's an obligation that it has to be associated with a specific season, which is the spring.
That determines the whole.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the way that the months were determined in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, in the time of the Sanhedrin, it was very organic. So at the end of the month, what happens? At the end of the lunar cycle, the moon goes invisible. It gets smaller, 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 goes invisible. Then you see the new moon. You see it re-emerge on the other side of this cycle. So when the new moon was spotted, that day was determined to be the first day of the month. So you didn't know when the first day of the month was going to be until it happened. Within range, because there's only two options. Let's say if the first day of this month started when this lunar cycle started, the cycle is 29 and a half days, which means it's either going to show up on the 29th day or it's either going to show up on the 30th day. If this month is 29 days, the new moon will show up on the 30th day. If this month is on the 30, closer to the 30 side of 29 and a half, it's going to show up on the 31st day. If this is, let's call it a 30-day month, the new moon will show up on the 31st day. So if the new moon is observed on the 30th day, then we know today is the first day of the following month. Last month was a 29-day month. This is the first day of the following month. If it doesn't show up, then we know that the next day is the first day of the next month automatically. So, practically, the way that this could work, you might have And it gets complicated, right? Because when we say 29 and a half days, it's not like the days begin at like, midnight, midday, and then it goes from midnight to midday to midnight to midday. That would be very simple and beautiful. Doesn't work that way. It's not exactly 29 and a half days. It's 29 and a half and change. Obviously, everything has to be messy. So it's not all that neat and tidy. So the way that it works out practically is sometimes you have two 29-day months in a row. Sometimes you have two 30s in a row, depending on how everything goes. And it depends with the sun and all the different details and when you actually see it and when it shows up, etc. So now our calendar is based on calculations of when the new moon is going to be and taking some other things into account. In the time of the Beis Hamikdash, it was, if someone saw the new moon, it was a new moon. If not, it was a new month. If not, it's the next day. And sometimes you can have two 29-day months in a row. Sometimes you can have two 30-day months in a row. So now the way our calendar is set is that Nisan is 30 days and Iyar is 29 days. And the 50th day of the Omer, or the day after the 49th day of the Omer, aka the 50th day, is the first day of Shavuos, which is the 6th of Sivan. What if we didn't have a fixed calendar and the way that it worked was when people testify, that's when it is? What if we have two 29-day months in a row? Each month came a day earlier means Shavuos is going to be a day later. The 7th of Sivan is arriving, the 6th of Sivan is arriving a day early, a day before the 50th day, because both months were only 29 days. There was one day less. So now the 6th of Sivan came on the 49th day of the Omer instead of the 50th day of the Omer. In that case, Shavuos would be celebrated on the 7th day of Sivan. If in the time of the Sanhedrin, both of these months turned out to be 30 days, now Shavuos, the 6th of Sivan, is going to show up a day later. So the 50th day of the Omer is going to be on the 5th day of Sivan. So in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, Shavuot could be the 5th, 6th, or 7th day of Sivan, depending on how things work out with spotting the moon. And that was the way it worked. Shavuos is, again, this is just another way of illustrating the fact that when we say that Shavuos is dependent on the journey through time, not the date on the calendar, it's very, very real. This is the way it's defined in the Torah. And it, even with our fixed calendar today, can still be applicable if you cross the date line. So on Shavuos, we commemorate the Torah, which is, and the arrival of Shavuos is dependent on, for each of us, on our own individual journey. Now, ideally, it's supposed to be a journey of personal development, growth, realignment, reconnection, etc. That's what the journey's supposed to be. And because that journey is, the design of it is, it's a 49-day journey, Shavuos is on the 50th day. Whether you participate in the journey or not, Shavuos is on your 50th day, because that's the design. If your 50th day is a day before or a day after everyone else around you, so be it. You do Shavuos a day before or a day after. And so what this emphasizes, now, there is one point of, I would say, subtlety and complexity here, and that is that the giving of the giving of the Torah and Shavuos are not technically, intrinsically connected at face value. Right? The Torah was given on Shavuos. The original Shavuos was on the 6th of Sivan, and that's the day the Torah was given. So the Torah was given on Shavuos. It makes sense that we commemorate it on Shavuos. That being said, officially the day of commemorating the giving of the Torah is the 6th of Sivan. If you get on a plane and if someone travels, let's say, from Australia to here, crossing the date line on Shavuos one way, and they are keeping Shavuos on the 5th of Sivan instead of the 6th, the first day of Shavuos, they do not say Zman Matan Torah Seinu in davening. When they daven, they do not say this is the time of the giving of the Torah, because it's not. That's on the 6th of Sivan. So it's Shavuos, but it's not the time of the giving of the Torah. So technically, intrinsically, at face value, Shavuos and the giving of the Torah are two separate things that in reality, in that original year, they aligned. Practically, our calendar is set up now so that they align. And so in the davening, we say the time of the giving of the Torah, but technically, it's actually two different things. Shavuos is day 50, Giving of the Torah, 6th of Sivan. That being said, there's a reason, obviously, why they aligned in that first instance. There's a reason why the calendar is set up in a way that they align now, and we say Zman Matan Torah Seinu, or the time of the giving of the Torah, in the prayer on Shavuos, and that is because while they are technically inherently at face value two separate phenomena, there is clearly a link between them and a bond between them. And this goes back to the Medrash that we quoted earlier that says that when they left, they asked Moshe, how long till we get the Torah on Mount Sinai? He said 7 weeks, and they started counting down. So the Medrash says counting of the Omer is a preparation for receiving the Torah. This journey is a preparation for receiving the Torah. Even though, technically, it could work out that they don't exactly coincide. Okay, so there's a technical, glitch. But there is a very real connection between them. So the journey of development, of growth, of realignment, reconnection during Sfiras Omer is a preparation to receive the Torah. We go through this journey, we receive the Torah on the other side of this journey. That's one part of this picture. There's another part of this picture, which is Shavuos is on the 6th of Sivan. The Torah was given on the 6th of Sivan. 50th day of the Omer, 49th day of the Omer, 51st day of the Omer, irrelevant. This is the day the Torah was given. The Torah was given on the 6th of Sivan. When you get to the 6th of Sivan, that's the day the Torah was given. So there are two components, not really components isn't the right word, but two aspects, let's say, in our relationship with the Torah. One aspect, one part of our relationship with the Torah is absolute. It is what it is. It doesn't matter what day you're up to. It doesn't matter you cross the date line 20 times and you're 20 days off. Irrelevant. Torah is given when Torah is given, regardless of anything to do with you. 6th of Sivan is when it was given. On the other hand, there is a journey of preparation, of preparing to Shavuos. Shavuos, which is, even though technically it's a separate phenomenon, but internally, and let's say energetically, it's very closely associated with the giving of the Torah. So, and there is a part of our relationship with the Torah which is very much associated with our own work. Not our own work. Yes, ours, but by ours, I don't mean our collectively, it's the opposite. With each of us has our own individual relationship with the Torah that is specific to us. It's got nothing to do with anyone else. Imagine you fly from here to Australia. Now, generally, the Rebbe very strongly discouraged putting oneself in this situation because there's a lot of it gets very, very messy. Keeping Shavuos on a different day to other people. The tefillin thing, it's not pretty. It is what it is, but it's messy and it's very not ideal. So the Rebbe very strongly discouraged it. So if, let's say, I was going to fly to Australia now, before Shavuos, and not fly back, instead of flying directly from here eastwards to Australia and crossing the dateline, I would fly west and go all the way 3/4 of the way around the world and stop somewhere in Europe and then stop somewhere in Asia and land in Australia 40 hours later of travel. But I never crossed the dateline. So I traveled for 40 hours and it's actually 40 hours later on the clock. So yes, I'm going to get there from Monday to Wednesday, but I actually passed through 2 nights during my travel, so things didn't get messed up. Now let's just imagine, I go from here to Australia. Now obviously there's no reason anyone would do this, but just to illustrate, I fly from here to Australia today, and then let's say on Sunday you fly from here to Australia, you get there Tuesday morning, then you get on a flight straight back around the world and you fly the whole way back around the world. So you get back, on Thursday, let's say Thursday-ish. Now you're here and you're still a day behind in the Omer because you cross the dateline, so you're a day behind. Now you're back where you started and you're still a day off. Now you cross the dateline again. You're 2 days off, go all the way around. You could be, if you do this trip every day, you could be off a week off by the time you get to Shavuos. Now obviously there's no reason anyone would do this, but hypothetically you could literally be in a position to keep Shavuos a week off because it's your journey through time. It's got nothing to do, everyone else is keeping Shavuos when they're keeping it. You could be keeping it a week later or a week earlier. Literally, you could do that if you wanted to. Now, it would be very expensive and you'd be exhausted and your circadian rhythm would be buried temporarily for a while probably, but you could do it.
Maybe someone's done it just for fun.
Doesn't sound like much fun for me, to me. Right, so on the other hand, the 6th of Sivan is when it is. And this is very, very important. Because what we're talking about here is Hashem giving us the Torah. Hashem gave the Torah to us. Right? And in the opening verse of the Ten Commandments is Hashem says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am your God. Elokecha means yours in singular. It doesn't say Elokechem, yours, plural, collective, God. It's yours, individual, singular. And the Gemara says the reason that Hashem said that, he was speaking to everyone, but Hashem wasn't speaking at once to everyone collectively. Hashem was speaking to every single individual individually at the same time. You have your own obligation and responsibility, and you have your own connection. Hashem gave the Torah to you individually as an individual. Nothing to do with him giving it to anyone else. Hashem gave the Torah to each of us individually. That's why it says to you in singular. Every one of us has our own relationship with Torah, on one hand. On the other hand, there's something that's universal and collective. And these two things together give us such a powerful and beautiful picture of what our relationship with Torah is. It's true, understanding these two things gives us a perception, a taste of how beautiful it is and how powerful it is. It's both beautiful and powerful. And that is, on one hand, it doesn't matter where you were, it doesn't matter how many times you crossed the date line, it doesn't matter what you did do, it doesn't matter what you didn't do, it doesn't matter what you did do and what you didn't do, regardless. Hashem gives the Torah to every single one of us on the 6th of Sivan. Every one of us has an unconditional connection to Hashem, and every one of us is entitled to a relationship with Torah and a connection to Hashem through Torah, regardless of where we come from, regardless of where we've been, regardless of what we've done or haven't done. It's irrelevant. There is an absolute entitlement that every one of us has to the Torah because there is an absolute connection that every one of us has to Hashem. And when Hashem gave us the Torah, he gave it to every one of us regardless. 6th of Sivan rolls around, 6th of Sivan rolled around, giving of the Torah doesn't matter. Irrelevant. There's nothing that matters other than the fact that you are here on the 6th of Sivan, Torah is yours. It's delivered to you. Every one of us, the connection to Hashem and the opportunity to connect to Hashem through Torah is absolute. And every one of us is equally entitled to it. The fact that I have a different history to someone else, the fact that I learnt less, the fact that I did more bad things, the fact that I did less good things, doesn't make me any less entitled to Torah than anyone else. It doesn't make me any less able to connect to Hashem through Torah right now in this moment. Because the connection to Hashem and the connection to Torah is absolute, unconditional, and it's got nothing can touch it. And this is true in every moment. It's illustrated in the fact that Torah is given on the 6th of Sivan, regardless of how many times you cross the date line and where you're up to in your journey. It doesn't matter. It's still given to you, period, end of story. What that tells us is that the Torah is given to every one of us equally, regardless. Right now, in this moment, whenever and wherever we find ourselves, our ability to connect to Hashem through Torah is absolute, and it's the same as anyone else's, and it's the same as it would be for us if every second of our life had been completely different, better or worse. Better or worse are like really poor words, but we all know what I mean. At the same time, as every one of us has an equal entitlement and opportunity to connect to Hashem through Torah no matter what, same as each other and same as ourselves in every alternate possible reality and in every other moment in time and point in space. It's also true that my journey to connect to Hashem through Torah is my own. And your journey to connect to Hashem through Torah is your own. It doesn't matter what everyone else is up to. It doesn't matter if everyone else is 3 days ahead because you went around the date line 3 times or they all crossed the date line 3 times. It's got nothing to do. The fact that other people are where they are has nothing to do with my or your connection to Hashem through Torah. If you are on your journey, taking your steps, where other people are up to is irrelevant. It's got nothing to do. It means nothing about your journey. If, let's say, and I'm going to, for simplicity's sake, let's say that you go to shul here on, let's say, the day before Shavuos, and it just so happens to be you didn't know that the shul you're in is a place where all the people who cross the date line are gathering, and for them it's actually Shavuos. So they're davening Shavuos davening, you're davening weekday davening. You're not doing something wrong because they're all davening Shavuos davening. And frankly, they're not doing something wrong because they're supposed to be davening Shavuos davening given the circumstances. The fact that they're all up to where they're up to has nothing to do with where you're up to. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. You are 49 days from the first day of the Omer. You count the 49th day today. Tomorrow is going to be Shavuos. For them, it's the 50th day. Okay, for them, not for you, not for me. It's so easy. And both of these make points that are so fundamentally and crucially important. It's very easy in life to get discouraged, to feel like, come on, me? I'm going to actually have this amazing connection to Hashem through Torah. Let's be real. And the answer is, actually, yes. That's the way it works. Doesn't matter if you're up to day 5 of Sphira or day 1 or day 100. 6th of Sivan comes around, the Torah is given. It doesn't matter. Our opportunity to connect to Hashem through Torah depends on nothing. It's inherent. It's a birthright by definition. It's got nothing to do with anything. I could be coming out of a dumpster fire of a life for 50 years and decide right now I want to connect to Hashem through Torah. There's nothing that can stand in the way of that. Right now, in this moment, I can connect to Hashem through Torah the same way, with the same quality of connection. Obviously, my ability to interact with the information and knowledge of Torah is not going to be the same if I've never learned it before as it would if I spent 50 years learning it. But ultimately, what's the real value in Torah is the connection to Hashem. And that's inherent to who we are. So if I'm opening something for the first time and I'm learning how to read Aleph Beis, but I'm doing that right now, and I'm completely immersing myself in the experience and doing it to connect to Hashem, I'm connecting to Hashem exactly the same way that someone else is who's been studying for 50 years and is writing a book of everything about Torah. It doesn't matter. The connection to Hashem is the same because that is who we are and it's absolute. It's got nothing to do with where we are on our journey. And that's the message of giving of the Torah on the 6th day of Sivan. Your journey will never get in the way of you being able to connect to Hashem. Ever.
No, so in essence, to really dumb it down, where you are is no one else's business, and where someone else is none of your business.
I would take it a step deeper than that, because the term none of your business, it's 100% true. But when you say it's none of their business, what that means is, they have no say. What they say doesn't matter. But it's deeper than that. It's not only that it's none of their business, right? Let's say that let's say that I am less capable at cake decorating than someone else. Random thing, right? Whatever. And that if someone wants to hire a cake decorator, it's very real that I'm inferior. My skill as a cake decorator is inferior to someone else's, right? So it is that, if they want to hire someone to decorate cakes, it is their business to know how good I am at cake decorating. Some random other person, they're like, oh, you're not as good at cake decorator. It's like, I don't care, it's none of your business. Whoa, what does it matter, right? So none of your business means you've got no say in this. It's a lot deeper than that. It's not just that it's none of their business, it's that it actually has no weight. It carries no weight. Where I've been, what I have or haven't done, where I stand now, carries no weight when it comes to my opportunity to connect to Hashem through Torah right now. It's absolute no matter what. For every single one of us equally, in every point in time, in every scenario equally. The ability and opportunity to connect to Hashem through Torah is absolute, unchangeable. Now there obviously is, that doesn't mean that personal experience and growth and journey is not a real thing. But what it does mean is that no one else's journey, again, not only is it not their business, their journey carries no weight. It's so natural and common and easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to other people. Oh, but come on, look where that person's up to. Right now, the bottom line is, if you want to climb Mount Everest, if someone else is closer to the top, they're closer to the top. Right? But once we understand that this is not about the information in Torah, ultimately the real value in Torah is the connection to Hashem. If I'm on my journey, I'm connecting to Hashem as Hashem designed my journey to be. And if Hashem designed my journey to start later than someone else's, or to move along at a faster pace than someone else's, or to move it along at a slower pace than someone else's, this is my journey. This is me connecting to Hashem. And someone else being a step ahead or a step behind on their journey means nothing, because that's their journey. This is my journey. They keep Shavuos tomorrow. I keep Shavuos today. One has nothing to do with the other. Right? And these are, in a sense, they're opposites, but they're both so important. Because for ourselves, there's nothing that can stand in the way of our opportunity to connect to Hashem right now. It's absolute. It doesn't depend on growth. It doesn't depend on anything. And when it does come to our journey and our growth, every one of us, Hashem said, Usfartem lochem, count for yourself. If you are in a place where everyone else is 5 days ahead and you're 5 days behind, you're counting for you. This is your journey, not theirs. And the fact that, if there was value, let's say, in effort in real life, and there is value, but let's say, people are climbing Mount Everest and at the end of the day there's a payout, and the payout is determined by how much effort you put in, and they measure, they have electrodes on your muscles to measure, let's say, right? Then the fact that someone else is closer to the top or not, if you're working harder, you're still getting a bigger payout than they are, right? So if you're measuring first to the top, then closer to the top is closer to the top. But if you're measuring, let's say the inherent value is not in how close you are to the top, but in the actual experience of the journey, then what matters is the experience of your journey, not where you are. One more thing I would add to that, just because it's not really involved in the point you were making. I'm just saying it as a side point because I think it is very important also, and it can be so important we can really hurt ourselves when we make this mistake. Sometimes, some people aren't up to making that check-in, right? And sometimes a person's just like, and maybe it's not because of my schedule or because of anything else. It's just because, right now, the way that things are landing and the way that I'm holding things and carrying things, I'm not up to it. And we can beat ourselves up over, it's so often and common, we beat ourselves up over not being up to things. Right? And it's the same message is true. If you are not up to it, and if you stop and you look and you make a proper, legit accounting and you say, does it make sense for me to do this or not? Is it the right thing if I take the whole picture into account and cost-benefit analysis? Clearly, it makes sense for me to not do this. Then it was the right thing to not do it.